Welcome back to Wargaming World, to England 1067, and to another game of Wargaming World Solo. Okay, so let's start with turn one. Just a quick note about the forces themselves. So the virtual U, the Saxon force, it's April 1067, and as the Normans go north, they get to certain points where there is resistance, and this is exactly it. So you'll see we have 6 defending units here. So I've got in the front ranks, the front 3 units, we've got a command unit in the middle, and 2 with 2 units either side, sorry, a unit either side I should say, with 2 handed axes. We've got a heavy unit behind the command, and then we've got bowmen and villagers there with the Saxon buildings. There are 2 other units which are off board, which will appear on the flanks if they do appear, and they are the defending virtual U. My force is the Normans. So the Normans are advancing. I've got the better forces in reserve, so I've got cavalry and dismounted knights as well as Norman infantry. Ahead of me I've got 3 good quality mercenary units. I've got 2 other mercenary units further on. They're not altogether too good and a little light, so just for mopping up perhaps, and 2 bowman units. I am about 2 foot in between the 2 forces, so in the first turn I'm going to be advancing within range, so extreme range is going to be 18 inches, and the objective very simply is for an advance of my Norman forces to get the surrender of the Saxons and take this village. You'll also notice that I haven't used the markers initially, and the reason for that is that in terms of the objective it's really straightforward. We've got trees on either side and just advancing over this this space, so there's no benefit really in terms of some kind of surprise. It would have the same format of the game. So let's start with turn 1 and see how many actions my forces are able to do. I'll be using the black dice for the Normans, so let's see how many units can operate. 2. I also get a plus because I'm attacking, that's 3, and potentially I could have the commanding leader who's with the cavalry to make a further order, which would be 4, or however if he moves himself then it's just 3. Need to roll and see if there is a random event. No, there isn't. So I'll just move my bowmen into range, so they're within 18 inches extreme range now. I'll fire in the next turn, and I've advanced my sort of lighter mercenaries over onto the side here just to make sure I've got nobody waiting for me the other side of these hedges. It now turns to the virtual U phase, and what I do is to test whether all 6 of these units are going to stay cautious. If they fail, it is temporarily to one of the other 2 operations, which is either to be measured or bowled, and we see whether they pass this by testing their morale standard. Starting here, this unit has morale standard of 9. And it passes and will remain where it is. This is actually the command unit. Its morale standard is 8. And it passes. So another heavy unit, 2-handed axes, and its morale standard again is 9, and it passes too. It's another good unit. It's a heavy unit of spearmen. Morale is 8. And they pass. This leaves the bowmen, who have a morale of 7, but they fail. 2, 3 temporarily bowled. They are. We'll do a retest in the next phase. But certainly they can't fire in the next phase. That's one disadvantage. If they stay bold, it means that their behaviour might be different than it would be if they were simply defensive. So that means they are not particularly effective for us for the next turn. The villagers whose morale is 6, they pass. So just for detail, I note down all of those units that have then passed. You'll see with the bowmen, temporarily they've gone bold. The 2 ones that are missing is the heavy spears and the light spears. Now they're off board at the moment because they are looking to come in through the flanks at some point later in the game. Is there a random event? No, there isn't. So what would now happen is that we would now look at actions. If you've got a set of the rules, you'd look now at chapter 14 in terms of how different units will operate. But in this instance, we've got defensive units holding the objective, and there is no reason for them to advance. So in this situation, they'll remain exactly as they are, and as such, that means it's the end of the first turn. Okay, I rolled off board and I got 5 commands plus 1 for the order from the commander, so 6 in total. So I've moved the 3 heavy mercenary units up. See at the back, I've also moved the Norman infantry up, and I'm going to fire with the 2 bowmen needing 8s to hit at extreme range. Need to roll and see if there is a random event. No, there isn't. Now, rather than just select which unit I'm going to fire, the bowmen are at extreme range, and I think I'll need to roll to see which units it hits. So we've got 3 units in front, and I'll just say 1, 2 is the one at the top, 3, 4 it's the command, and 5, 6 we've got the units here at the bottom. So that's the command unit, and the command unit is hit twice. Let's see if it hits. That's a hit, and that's a miss. Now let's have a look at the impact. Remember, it is a -1 because it's a light unit, and it's also half of the effect because it is at extreme range. That's a 5, less 1 because it's a light unit, so it's a 4. So the impact is a 2. 11. Right, that's significant. Right, and this is a result. It means that the command unit has been hit and it moves backwards. A 5 is a full retreat, so that's a full move backwards. Now, I've said that or I think that the other unit will do the same, the unit behind it. So rather than say that it's the command unit is destroyed, it moves back and it leaves this big gap here in between. The unit will not be able to move back into the next turn. It can reform, but that's certainly a significant impact from what seems a relatively small amount of firing. What I also need to test is whether the leader was killed, taking casualties. 5, no it's not. If I got a king or a joker, it would have been considerably different. Now, although this is a setback, it's not a total disaster because the Normans are still some way off. But first thing I need to do is to test whether the units will remain in their cautious mode or whether that might change. Okay, I've tested the 6 units. You'll see the 2 at the front are red, so they've stayed cautious. That's the heavy infantry, and the spears at the back have remained cautious. If you remember, the bowmen had moved temporarily to bold but back to cautious. They can't operate in this phase. And then there have been 2 changes. So the villagers have gone temporarily measured, so perhaps they've been upset by the retreat of the command unit, so they're wondering what they need to do, and indeed the command unit itself has gone temporarily measured. So it will retest in the next phase, but as it stands at the moment, that is the end of the tests there. But let's see if a couple of things happen. One is a random event, and the other is to see whether any units appear on the flanks. Firstly, the random event. No, there's nothing. So we draw a card for flank movement. If there is a picture card, then something happens, but it's a 5, so nothing happens in this turn. So in terms of VY actions, the bowmen can't do anything, remember, because they've changed back to bold, and so all of the units which are measured, they can't advance anyway if you're the command because of the retreat. It can turn round, so we can sort of reform, so they have done with the spears, but they can't advance, so the gap will remain as we move into turn 3. And so really the only 2 units that could operate are the 2 in front, going to stay where they are in the expectation that the commander is going to move back into that position, because we've got time with the Normans being some way off. Okay, so that's the end of this turn. Over to turn 3. So how many commands do I get? 2. I get 1 for the advance movement, so I've got 3, and potentially another 1 with the command units. Is there a random event? No, there isn't. I've actually moved my lead unit, so I don't get an extra command, because my commander has moved. I've moved this unit forward, so that's 2, which leaves me with 1 command, so I'm going to fire with 1 of the bowmen. Now, as the front ranks have split with the command, I'm going to pick out this as the target, so it's 8 to hit. It is a hit. Impact is 1d6 minus 1 because we're a light unit, and then halved because it's extreme range. So I'm going to say that's nothing from there. Alright, I've tested all of the units and they've all gone back to cautious. They've steadied themselves and they're back and ready for action. Just to note that in terms of the command unit going back from measured to cautious, and indeed the villagers next to them, it means that they can't move in this phase. So that's they can't operate. However, there are some different things, including the bowmen. The bowmen, if they are in range of the enemy, can potentially fire. We need to test a couple of things though. We need to have a look at random events and potential flank activity. Is there a random event? No, there isn't. Is there potential flank movement? No, there's not. And finally, I've just checked the distance for the bowmen, but it's beyond 18 inches. Forces are still quite some way off in terms of their range, so that's actually the end of turn 3. So over to turn 4. How many actions can I get? Plenty, right. Okay, so that means it's going to be a general advance, I think, as far as the Norman forces. Let's just test and see if there's a random event. No, there isn't. Okay, with that, I've moved the bowmen across, sort of skirmishes across, and moved forward then my mercenaries, cavalry and infantry, so getting closer to the Saxons. Right, okay, let's see what their response might be. Okay, I've done this off camera. Again, the front 2 units are fine, remain cautious, but the bowmen now have failed their test and gone temporarily measured, as has the command. So the command has gone temporarily bold, which would be fine in terms of action, but it means it can't move forward. So if it wants to be aggressive, that's fine being bold, but at the moment it's pretty static. I feel like it's making lots of noise, but from not necessarily at the front line. So let's take a test and see if there's a random event, or indeed if there is any flank activity. There's no random event. And there's no flank activity. Now, it's a bit unique. This is the way Wargaming World Solo works, is that it's a tricky situation now, because I know that the command unit can't move in the next turn. It'll have to retest, and therefore it's going to take a minimum of 2 turns to get back into the centre of this front line. The spearmen are behind them, so can't move through them, and the Normans are getting pretty close. So I want to address this gap in the middle, but can I do so? So how do I make a decision whether I can or can't do that? So I look at the tables on chapter 14 and see what options I've got. Remember, the units are cautious, that's what the red dice indicates. The enemy are in the open. Now I can't fire because I don't have firing as an option. So I need to think realistically about what other challenges I've got here. So if I think about the 2 units at the front there, they are potentially being outclassed because there's a lot of Norman units that are advancing in advance here. So what might I do is that if I was outclassed, I draw a card, and then I'll join a friendly unit, so 2 units coming together. If the picture card, we could potentially take cover, or if it was a joker, we might retreat. So I'm going to draw a card and see what conclusion I make from that, and it's a 4. So if that's the case, it's to join a friendly unit. So that's what I've come up with. I've created a bit of space behind the 2 units there, so where the command and the spear units can move, and they're feeling confident that they could take on these mercenaries as they advance. So that is the end of this turn. Right, actions. How many actions here? 3, potentially, well, 4 for attacking, and potentially 5. Check if there's a random event. No, there isn't. Okay, so I got a 3 plus 1 for the attack, attacking force, so that gives me 4. So I've moved the central mercenaries forward and wheeled slightly to give a gap, and to run through that are the Norman knights, so that's 2. I'm going to advance towards these units, and it leaves me with 2 more commands, and I'm going to fire with both bowmen at either side of those two units. And my hope is to dislodge one of the 2 and then hit them with the cavalry next. 8s to hit. First one's a hit. It's one on the right hand side, and on the left hand side again that's a hit. Effectively I need a 3 or more to make an impact. So first of all, the impact on this unit. Okay, so 5 less 1 is a 4, so the impact is 2. The other unit, 3 less 1 is 2, so it's 1. So impact is 2 on the first one and 1 on the other. Now I'm going to take a look at the characteristics, and in terms of these 2 units, remember one is impacted by 2 and the other by 1, and if I use my characteristic card, which I'm going to for both of them, means it helps them with the morale test. You'll also notice that the command unit could have had an automatic pass rather than retire. I didn't use it then, perhaps because there's going to be more desperate moments in the game, but I'm going to use these 2 cards, so therefore the morale test for both of the units will be to get a 9 or less. First unit needing a 9, passes, and the second unit also does. Okay, so I've done the test again offline. 2 units at the front there are fine, which is important. The bowman gone back to cautious and has the command, so that's useful, certainly for the next turn. And only the villagers have failed and temporarily gone bold. Is there a random event? No, there isn't. What about flank activity? Now, yes there is. Now this is where in the rule set you will be looking at, so it's chapter 11, and it's appropriate actually that picture above is above this table. So what we do is that it's an attacking force on the flank, and I need to roll 1d6 and see how many units can appear. I've got up to 2. Let's see how many appear here. Okay, so it's a 2, so there's going to be just 1 unit so far. 1, 2, 3, it's the heavy spears. No, it's the light spears. This is where they appear, behind these hedges, and they're going to harass these units, perhaps immediately or after a second unit appears, but either way I can't really choose that myself. I know that they're going to be a bold unit, and from subsequent phases we'll see how they behave. And in terms of what happens next, I'm satisfied that this unit, now that they've moved together, are in a position of strength. I can't do anything with the bowmen or the command and the villagers in this phase. I could in the next, hopefully, if they pass their tests. But that's actually the end of the turn, and over to the Normans. Right, this could be a decisive phase as I charge with the knights at the infantry, but let's just see how many actions I can take. So 4 effectively. Is there a random event before I do anything else? Oh, yes there is. This time I use the Norman deck of cards, and what do I get here? That's a queen. Now I'll make my own random event details. So the Queen is indirect fire, hits a random enemy unit at extreme range. Right, so it's the enemy that are hit, so it's going to be one of these units, and let's roll to see which one. So 1, 2, 3 the bowman, 4 command, 5 spearmen, 6 is the villagers. Let's just move that dice. What do we get? 5, so it's over here. So extreme range means it's half effective what this is. I'll ignore a 1. It's a 5 though, so effectively I'm going to say that it's 2 the impact. So the morale of the unit is 8, less 2 is 6. Oh blimey, that's really significant. So it's a full retreat, and the unit appear here now, right against the river. I also need to draw a card and see if in the casualties the leader was killed. It's a queen. No, it's not. Now I'm going to charge in the movement with the cavalry attacking this unit here. I need to roll and see whether I can do so. It's 10 for the command here, so unless it's a very handy, and it is a 10 funnily enough, but that unit can still do so. Now when charged, these units, the defending unit can countercharge, and I will do so in order to try and make an impact. It needs to be below 9, and it is. So before we do that melee, I've got a couple of other actions. So I have moved the dismounted knights forward. They're there, and one of these mercenary units is moving forward towards the Saxons, and I'm also going to fire with the bowman again at extreme range. So same target, so this time it's going to be a 7. Okay, and it's a 7, so that's a hit. Impact is a 4 halved because sorry, it should be 1 down because it's a light unit, and halved, so effectively it's going to be 1. So the morale is 9 down to 8. What's the impact? A 10. Right, again that's bad. It means that the unit will need to move back by half a move and a slight retreat. We also need to have a look and see if there are any leaders hit in that action. Let's check that for leaders. No, nothing. Back 3 inches. Only problem is that really isolates this unit. Let's see now how the melee goes with these 2 units who've charged into each other. Now these are both heavy units. The leadership of the Norman Knights is actually 10. And also I'm going to use a character card, so it's in terms of the enemy impact, you get a -1 with that, so that'll be could be substantial. So we've then got the Saxons, who have 9 in terms of their leadership, and they're also a heavy unit. So the impact of both the units is +3. They both charge, which is a +2, and they're both heavy units. So the impact that they make is +3 to these dice. The black dice is the Normans. Right, okay, significant really. So that is going to be 9 for the Saxons and 7 for the Normans, but like I say, we use that card, so it's a deduction of 1 from the impact of the Saxons, so the Saxons in the end are going to be 8, so it's 8s versus 7s. So 8 was the impact, so what we do is we work out the consequence in terms of morale. So 8 away from the Norman morale. Norman morale was 10, and so 8 of the deduction from that leaves 2. So how far above that do we go? So 2, and so it's only 2 above that, so it's a slight so they slightly withdraw. So the impact here was 7, the morale is 9 less 7, so 2. So how far above 2 do we go? And that is 3. So again, they just slightly retire. Just need to see if a leader is killed. So the Saxons, no, and the Normans, no. So the Normans retire 6 inches, and the Saxons 3 inches, so 9 inches between them, and that the we now switch to the VY action. Okay, it's the VY phase. The problem that I've got is that the unit here got knocked back, so it can't go forward and attack these mercenaries. This unit has been in action, so it's just reforming. And of course at the back here we've got the unit which has moved further away, so I need to have a look and see how we might secure the situation for the Saxons. But let's have a look and see what they do in terms of whether they remain cautious, etc. Now, a number of things have happened. This unit has failed its approach. It's no longer cautious, it's gone bold. That's not surprising, I guess, after being in action. It means it can't move in the next phase unless, of course, it's charged, as it probably will be, by the Norman knights. It can countercharge then, because it's gone bold, so I don't see a reason why not. So that should be fine. The unit over here remains cautious, but it can't move because, if you remember, it got pushed back through the bow fire. The villagers have changed temporarily to cautious, or back to cautious I should say, but can't move in this operation. And the command unit has failed yet again. It is now temporarily measured. So it's only the bowmen here who passed their test and are cautious. I'll have to see whether they are in range to fire. And up here, this unit passed its test, so it can be bold. So let's have a look and see what they will do also. Just need to test if there's a random event. No, there isn't. Does the second flank unit appear? Oh! It's a joker. That's disaster. And so, drawing a joker. If a joker is drawn, it's a disaster. All units designed in either reserve or flank troops are lost due to an ambush. Just looking up here, you've got this unit, and whatever its behaviour is, you've then got 3 enemy units in front of it. So taking a look at the bold unit, which is what it is at the moment, it's certainly outclassed, if not untouchable, in terms of the enemy, which means it'll either take cover or join a friendly unit. I don't think it'll necessarily retreat. I think that would be a bit extreme, but at the moment, whatever the approach of the unit, it might stay safe the other side of the hedge. I could attack it with these 3 units from the Normans, but certainly it isn't going to come the other side and go on the offensive. Last thing I can do, however, is that the bowmen here are in range, it's extreme range, to fire at the Norman cavalry. So let's have a go. 7's to hit, but that's a miss. And so let's see how many actions I've got to operate here into attack. But I feel like I might be able to do something, quite a lot of damage on this unit right ahead. So let's see how many actions I get. 2, so +1 for the attack. I won't get an additional 1 for the command because the commander is going to be charging with this unit. Let me just see if there is a random event. There isn't. Charge again with the knights. Do we pass 10 or less? Yes, they do. Will there be a counter-attack? Counter-charge, I should say. Yes, there will. So here it is the charge against each other, but I've also moved the mercenaries to hit this unit in the side. I'm left with 1 other action, so the bowmen are going to fire again at this unit. That's a hit. Let's see what the impact is. 3, so effectively 1, so I reduced 1 down to 2, halves is just 1. Another unit is 9, last one is 8. Do we go above that? Yes, we do. It's 10, and they are pushed back again. Is a leader killed in that process? Let's check. No, there isn't. Okay, I'll do the flank attack in a moment, but first of all, let's look at this in terms of these 2 units. +3 for both of the rolls, as it was last time. So let's see what the outcome is. And it's exactly the same impact. In actual fact, it's a bit better for the Saxons because I don't get that 1 deduction that I got for the card last time. So, right, so the knights are 10, less 9, so we've got 1. Let's see what the morale is. How far above 1? Oh, blimey, right, 8 above. So the morale of the Saxons is 9 less 7. How far above 2? 5 above. Right, specific to the knights, they would flee, which is 2 moves, so effectively it's 24 inches. And the question is whether they can flee directly away from the enemy, and the answer is no, they can't. So as a result, the unit, and indeed the leader of this force, is now removed from the board. Now I just need to check if a leader is killed in the process. Now, well, that's a king. Now, a leader isn't killed, but he is wounded. And as a consequence, with a leader being wounded, the morale standard of this unit drops down by 2, so it goes from 9 to 7. Now, this unit would make a full retreat. However, before we do that, it's going to be hit in the flank by the mercenary unit. It doesn't fight against it, it just takes the impact, and we see what happens here. Flank is a +1 impact to this roll. Impact therefore is 2. So morale is 7, less 2 is 5. How much above 5? 9, so it's at 4 above, so that is a retire, half move. So I'm going to say it's been thrown back in both actions, from the original knight and from this one, so I'm going to say it ends here, and it isn't turning to face the enemy. Is a leader lost in that action? Jack? No, it's not. Right, okay, I've done the approaches for the various different units. This unit stayed bold and is recovering, and then you'll see in here we've got the villagers have gone temporarily bold. The command is, if I move one of those cards, the command is back to where it was in terms of being cautious, and then there's no random event, and I drew cards for the reaction of the various different units. So the 8 came out, so that particular unit was fine, could advance back into its sort of defensive position. The bowmen passed their test, and then they will fire in a moment, and I'm going to fire at this unit. However, in terms of what this unit would do, it came out with a joker, which means it would move into cover. So that unit is sort of pointing in that direction towards those 2 buildings, and that is where the units are. So I'll just do the next thing, which is firing from those bowmen at that unit. To hit with a 7. It's an 8, so it's a miss. So just at the end of the turn, what we're looking at is that the Normans are advancing. I feel like this unit in front of me here, the Saxons, is very vulnerable, and that the general line of the Saxons has been gone back towards the river. But let's see how things go on in the next turn. Norman actions, we've got 4 plus 1. Now, hang on, I won't get 1 for the commander. The commander is killed, but I'm going to say that this mounted knight is going to be the nominal commander, but we're not going to get an extra action from them. They are attacking, so you do get a bonus of that, so it's going to be just 5. Test for a random event. Oh, yes it is. Or a Norman card. That tells me a 3. That's really significant, because it means that there is a storm and no unit may charge. And that is a problem, because I was going to charge with this unit into the side of the Saxons, but I think I'll not do that now. Right, as a result, instead I've moved these 4 units 6 inches forward, and the unit there at the back has also advanced. So it's over to the Saxons in their turn. Okay, I've done the off-board testing. This unit has remained bold and drew a card for it to attack, and it passed its charge test, as did the mercenary, so we're going to do that melee in a second. Over here, the bowmen passed their test and they're going to fire. I'll draw a card for that in a second. I think I missed drawing a card a couple of times for the firing, but never mind. Behind it, those spearmen have moved because the command unit in front of it again has failed its test and has now gone measured. The villagers, not surprisingly, failed their test again, gone back to bold. This unit passed their test and have gone in a defensive position and hold their position there. So next thing to do is to see if the bowmen will fire. I'll draw a quick card, more or less anything other than a joker. They'll fire at this unit and then we'll work out at the melee over here. Okay, I've drawn a 9 in terms of the cards, so that's fine. Let's see if the bowmen can hit. Now, it's actually the second time they've shot at them, so it should make it a plus to them. So rather than a 7, it's an 8, so that is a hit. One for impact, because it's a light unit, so it's still a 4. That's a good hit. This unit is an 8, last 4 is 4. How far above? It goes at 3 above, so it needs to go half backwards there, and it can't move in the next phase, so it is of benefit. So let's have a look at the morale over here. Now both units charged, so it's a +2 on the roll for the impact, but the unit here, the Saxons, also get a +1 for a heavy unit. A note of the characteristic of this mercenary unit, which is a +2 for morale in terms of the test. Black dice is the Normans. So what have we got there? So the Normans were 5 +2 for the charge, and the same we have, well, it's going to be 7s for each. It will be 7s, but I'm going to take away that 2, that card, so the impact effectively is 5 and 7 respectively. Now, the Saxons' morale is only 7, so let's see how above 7 we go. It's at 7, so there's going to be a full retreat. 8 less 5 is 3, so how far above 3 do we go? And it's the same again, so it's 7 for each. So that's the retreat for both of them, and that effectively is the end of the turn. I'll also mention the benefit of that shooting from the bowman there is that that unit in advance, because it had to go back halfway, it also can't attack this one in the flank. So, end of the turn. Still don't know who's really got the upper hand here. Let's have a look in the next turn. Well, I rolled a 5, got an extra command to give myself 6 options, and as a result I've moved the units here, so these Norman infantry. I moved the mercenaries again closer. I've now started to move those bowmen, trying to get behind the back there, so that's 3 units moving. And then I have also moved these Norman infantry forward here. Actually, to make a distinction, these are dismounted knights that are advancing. I've left those 2 units up there with the unit on the flank. They'll cover that off. So in actual fact, I've got more commands than I need, with the exception that I've also got this one, bowmen, who are going to fire at this unit. To mention that there wasn't a random event, but that is a hit. Extreme range, so it's also a light unit, so -1 and then half of whatever it is I get. It's a 4, so effectively I'm going to say that the impact is 1. Remember, is leaderless, and it is therefore a 7. Last one is 6 we got, and that is a further retreat of a half move. Move into this direction, so it might be a problem if they keep having to move back, but they're not going to be able to be used in their phase, so over to the virtual U. Okay, for the VY, this unit remained bold, but it's moved back, so it isn't operative. Bowmen have gone temporarily bold also, so can't be used. The unit behind them are fine, they passed and remained cautious. And the command actually remained measured, so they can move, so I'll do that in a second. The villagers failed, as they seem to be doing each time, and have gone temporarily bold, and unfortunately this unit failed, so it's gone temporarily measured. So effectively the only 2 units that can operate are the command unit and the spears behind them. Rolled for a random event, and there is one, so let's take a look and see what the impact is. It's a queen. Indirect fire hits 1 random enemy unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 at the back there. Let's see which one it is. 5. So I'm going to say it is that unit. Direct fire at extreme range, so we half whatever this is. So I'm going to roll that down to a 1. 8 less 1 is 7. But that's a further retreat. Moves back a further half move, and it won't be able to move in the next turn. Right, so I've drawn a card offline just to see that this unit could move forward, the command unit, and it has. It's moved in line now with this one. And the spears have moved from away from the bowmen and behind the unit there. So that is effectively the end of the turn. Over to my Norman forces. Okay, I've got 5 commands in total, and there's no random event, so let's have a look and see what I'm going to do. Effectively, which means I think we're going to charge into some kind of action. So I want to charge into this unit, and similarly I want to charge again over that unit there. Both would countercharge, so let's test and see whether they pass the various tests. Charges needs an 8 or less, but fails. Fail here. The test to charge, so it just doesn't fancy it, and therefore the commanding unit doesn't countercharge, although it might charge in the next phase. I'll have a look at my other unit. That will charge, or countercharge, and it will move this unit forward. As you know, this one failed. We've had the other charge into combat. We'll do in a moment. 4th unit moved forward there, and a 5th is the bowmen have sneaked behind this particular building, and I'm going to try and get behind these units and see if we can fire in the back in future turns. But let's have a look and see what the melee consequence is here. So both units charged, so it's a +2, but also the Saxons are a +1 in terms of double-handed axes. +3 to the Saxons, but only roll a 1, so that is 4 against a 5. Saxon command is 9, less 5 is 4. How far above? We just have to retreat half a move. Morale is 8, less 4 is 4. Where do we go there? But that is a 6 above, so that is a full move backwards. If a Saxon leader was killed, no. A Norman leader, no. Right, there's no random event, and I've tested all of the approaches, and effectively what's happening is that this unit can operate. It is bold, as can the command as it's measured, and so what I'm going to try and do is to charge those 2 units as a consequence. Bowman can't operate because it's gone back to cautious. The spears behind can, and I'll try and form up a line with that one, which has gone back from measured to cautious, and the villagers have stayed bold and will stay where they are. Need to go 7 or less to be able to charge, otherwise they'll just stand where they are. 7, counter charge. Different dice, Norman dice. 10. That means the Normans won't countercharge. They're a heavy unit, so it's 2 heavy units against each other, but an advantage to the Saxons. Let's see if this command will charge. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. So this is effectively where we get to. There's battles to take place there. We've got a new defensive line behind here. Let's have a look at what takes place with this action. Use a character card on here, which is, it's effectively a -1 to the impact that the Saxons make. What that effectively means is that they both charge, so that's a +2. I would normally get a +1 with the Saxons, but because I'm using that card, it's just +2 each. Right, +2 to the Normans, so the Normans are a 7, Saxons only a 3. Morale is 8, less 7 is 1, so how far above 1 do we go? 8 above, and that is that means that the command will flee. I'll take a look at that in a second. Mercenaries, the morale is 8 less 3, it gives us, where do we now? So 7, so 7 is a full retreat, so they will break away and move 1 back, but 8 is a flee from this, so we'll have to take a look at that in a second. Take a look and see if a leader is killed from the Saxons first of all. Nope. Mercenary unit. No. Effectively puts the command unit all the way up here, making, well, moving away very quickly. Use a card for the Normans here, so it's a +2 in terms of the morale test when we have it. Both heavy units, but the Saxons also charged. So +1 to the Normans, +3 to the Saxons. The Saxons are a 6, Normans are a 3. Okay, I'm going to say that we have Norman morale is normally 9, less 6 is 3, plus 2 for that card, so 5. How much above 5? It is above, so it's 5 above, so it needs to do again a full retreat. Here is 7, less 3 is 4. How far above 4? And what have we got there? So 3, that's just sort of a half retreat. Okay, I've moved the game on to a logical conclusion. So what I've done here is, if we look a little bit further away, we've got these 2 units engaging with the flank. Over here I had the bowmen moving across into towards the back, but I've got the villagers who've intercepted, and therefore it's required another set of Norman spearmen to go and clear up behind these buildings now, very much alight. And it leaves us then with these 4 units on either side facing each other. The bowmen have fired and taken a few casualties, but in actual fact it's now left to these 2 units, 2 sets of units to take a charge, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to see if they actually do charge, they commit into the charge, and what the result of that is, and come to a conclusion about who is the victor in this game. Now, in terms of charging, we've got Normans where their morale is a 9, and the other mercenaries are an 8. I've used all of the character elements, so there's no other factors, so we need to know how many of these units are happy to charge. Start with the Norman dismounted knights. So 9 is the leadership, they will, and 8's for all the other units. So the second will do so. The third will not, and the fourth will. So for the counter charge, this unit's morale standard is a 7. The commander's an 8. This unit is an 8. That one is a 9. This unit will. The command, yes it will. Now this unit didn't charge, but I'm going to give this unit the opportunity to charge, like as a general advance. So I need an 8 or less. No, it doesn't. This unit's a 9. And this one won't. So this one will charge and hit that unit that was standing there. These 2 units will remain just staring each other out, and then you've got these 2 here where they both charged. So these are both heavy units, and they both charge, so +3 on this roll. Right, so we've got 7 and 6 respectively. Let's work out the impact. So the Normans, it was a 6. The morale of the Saxons is a 7. So how far above 1? 5 above. The morale here is 9. 7 was the impact. So how far above 2? Just 3. So I'll take a note of that as we move into that action. They're both charged, so it's a +2, and the Saxons are a heavy unit, so it's +3. So the Saxons is a 6 and the Normans are 4. So the morale is an 8, less 4. How far above 4? Just 1. The morale is 8 and the impact was 6. How far above 2? Right, okay, so that's 7 above. So after moving the units, they're effectively mirroring each other in how they've gone back, and then we've got these units which were standing off each other, and then this one at the end. So the Saxons are a heavy unit, but they didn't charge. +1 to the Saxons, +2 to the Normans. Alright, Saxons end up with a 7, Normans 4. Morale is 9, less 4 is 5. How far above 5? 4, so that goes half a move backwards. Morale is 8, less 7 is 1. Move that out of the way. How far above 1? And that is 5, so that's a 1 move retreat. Right, I think I'm going to call it and say that it is a VY victory. It is a victory for the Saxons. I'm not going to get, I don't think I'm getting anywhere with the Normans as I'm trying to push through. The major impact of this was losing the cavalry, losing the knights early on in the game. I could probably take the flank here, and the game could take on, or played on, for a very long time, I think. But ultimately, I think there are similar troops facing each other, and they're going to be pushing each other back and forth over a longer period of time. So I'm going to say that this rebellion continues. It's been the Normans haven't been able to dislodge them. I think they would go back, have a look, have a think, and then perhaps attack again, and I might do so with a slightly different game. Right, so just leaves me to say thanks very much for watching. Thanks to everybody who has purchased the Wargaming World solo rule set, and everybody who's playing in all sorts of different periods now. You'll have seen as well on the YouTube channel there's lots of different games that I've played, different periods. Next time I think it's going to be a little bit more modern. I think it's going to be a Vietnam War action. Let's see how that goes. And thanks everybody who's on the Wargaming World solo Facebook group as well as the YouTube channel. Been really terrific with your thoughts and ideas and other games that can put together, and the terrific feedback in terms of various different things on Facebook for for the figures and the tabletop, etc. So thanks once again, and look forward to putting a new game out, and we'll see you soon.